everybody, and welcome back to the Movie Club Emporium. And this week, I need you to turn off your eyes, but turn up your ears. Because we were talking about the new A24 horror film of an aural nature, Undertone. Now, this has been a lot of hype. A lot of people talking about this is one of the scariest movies of the year. Of course, naturally, there's somebody who's going to say the scariest movie ever. Um, I do appreciate the marketing that it is the best horror movie you've ever heard. So I will say I'm going to be very spoiler free. Um, so no big giveaways, things like that. But uh, this movie I really dug. I really dug it. I can see why there may be some people who don't. To kind of give you the basic synopsis, we have our main and only real character, visually, that we see is Evie, played by Nina Kiri. She and her friend Jonathan, I believe, do a podcast, a horror podcast called The Undertone. Now, as somebody who has recorded podcasts before, does these weekly review videos, does our monthly live streams that Nick and I do. Uh I will say the most unbelievable thing in this movie is their recording schedule for their podcast, because they seem to just kind of banter, uh record for 20 minutes and then stop for days at a time. For what is considered, what they kind of talk about or hint at as a weekly podcast. Um, so you can't do that. That's insane. But so we have Evie. She is staying with her mother, who is kind of like at the last stages of life. She no longer eating, is no longer really conscious. Is just basically there, uh, in bed waiting to pass, and so she's kind of given things up to be there, giving up what exactly we aren't 100% sure on the details. There are some things that come to light uh as the movie progresses that I won't necessarily give away, but it seems that there's hints that maybe things weren't super great to begin with before they kind of give everything up to stay with her mother. And you're never given really a clear look at what their relationship was prior to this moment in time. That's the one thing I think with this movie, because it's only an hour and 36 minutes, and it flies by while also being a very deliberately slow cooked, uh slow burn movie. Um because we're not given a lot. Um it's mostly her doing this podcast with everything else being ancillary, including the characters. Again, the only people you see on screen is this woman and her unconscious dying mother. Everything else is voices on over Zoom. I'm assuming a Zoom call, uh, maybe just Discord or phone calls, things like that. Um, which is really interesting. This movie also reminds me of a lot of other really great horror movies, while not just being like it pulls things from them. Like very much this style of this one person alone only dealing with the outside world definitely made me think of something like Pontypool. And with the kind of the main thrust of this film, where we do the her and her, we'll get back on track. Her and her friend do this horror podcast where they kind of talk about scary things and people calling with scary stories. Um, they were sent these 10 audio files from somebody, and as we progress listening through them, things get creepier and creepier and the story unravels. Um, and that really struck me because it reminded me a lot of one of my favorite horror movies, and definitely I think works on the same level as that horror film, and that is Brad Anderson's Session 9. Um, Session 9 is a film that is a very basic haunting story. I mean, the location is very cool. But outside of that, it's a very simple story. However, what elevates Session 9 so much is the fact that you are listening it's these performances through these audio recordings of this uh asylum patient's sessions. And that is very much with this film. And that's why I mean with the listening part. This movie, number one, I don't know who, I know horror movies don't get a lot of love at the Oscars. I know sound mixing, I think, is an Oscar. This movie should be nominated because this movie, every scare, every tense situation, everything in this movie is 100% reliant on the sound mix. Now, you know, uh, sound in horror films isn't anything new. Halloween without John Carpenter's score is not a scary film. Um, Sound effects, but everything in this movie is based around that audio. And the silence when what we're listening for in the silence, and then what we are hearing, and it's not a lot of because so many movies now with jump scares are based on silent, boom. What this movie does so well with its tension is it's scarier in the silence, even though there's no real jump scares. It's just because you're tense waiting for something to happen. Um, and it's also well done. The film director, Ian Tucson, uh, does a fantastic job. Number one with the low, but I think this movie was like $550,000 or something like that. Not a lot of money. Again, you're with a woman. You have one actress and the occasional, second actress in bed. Everything else is audio. We're in one location. We never leave this house. Everything is done through the audio performances and the audio captures. And he does an amazing job of making this seem so uniquely scary while also being so many things that you've seen before. It's no surprise that the guy's next film is supposed to be he's supposed to be doing a new Paranormal Activity movie because why wouldn't you get him? Um, but yeah, so watching this movie, I'm thinking, okay, it's so unnerving, especially because you're listening and I cannot wait to experience it at home. Because I mean, seeing in the theater is great, and you should totally do that. But the theater also provides a lot of wild cards. Somebody who can't chew popcorn with their mouth closed. Um, Somebody who is, um, on their third week of just absolutely just sniffling their brains out. So being able to, especially maybe like watching it, it's almost a movie that warrants watching with headphones. We when we talk about movies and people talk about movies, you want to see it on the biggest screen with the best sound. This is definitely a film that headphones, like a good set of headphones. Then you could argue maybe the scariest movie for sure of the year. Um, but no, again going back to Session. This is a simple movie. It's a very simple kind of. I don't wanna say by the numbers, but a very simple, "I've seen this setup before." What makes it so, I'll say great, what makes it so interesting, what makes it work so well, and feel so new is the use of the I just realized there's this light coming from the window, the audio, use of it. And we'll cut that out. Okay. Um, what makes it so unique is the audio, the way it's portrayed orally through your ears. Um, and it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds to its ending. I know some people may or may not be down with it. I think it works for this film. That's all I will say about it. But overall, I really, much like Session 9, I really felt myself when the movie was over sitting there, and it's weird, like it does something to you. Maybe I guess it would be physically. I don't know because when it ends and you're just kind of with it, and you spent the last hour and a half like listening so hard, and your ears have been the ones impacted by all the scary moments, all the tension, everything is in the ears, that it kinda makes you feel a little weird when it's over. Something I wasn't quite used to. I will say, um, that I do like this concept, and I recommend this movie. Of course, recommend Session 9, it's a fantastic movie if you've never seen it. Um, but I will say because, like, maybe you're like, "Hey, I'd rather enjoy a good book." And I said because I read a book last year that really kind of felt like a spiritual companion to this movie. And then after seeing this movie, I still kind of feel that way, but also would enjoy seeing that book brought to a movie, knowing that you could do something kind of like this. Um, so if you're like, I love books too, check out Ghost Radio by Leopoldo Gaut. Um, the a Mexican uh Mexican American author, I believe, and it's a fantastic book about ghosts and radio shows and call-ins and things like that. And if you're like, well, I'd rather not read the book, I can guarantee I'll tell you this, the audiobook is read by Pedro Pascal, so there's that. Um Overall, like I said, I really did enjoy this movie. I think that it's not the scariest movie of all time. It definitely is effective. Uh an amazing use of audio, and even I say that I keep going to the audio, the visually, because you have to be with it too visually. I mean, it's not like you're looking at a piece of cardboard. The guy does some amazing things with the camera. There are scenes where, kinda looking in the back of a blackened room behind her, and you're looking, you're waiting for that jump, things will happen. You'll see little things happening kinda slightly off for peripheral. Um, well done, and the acting. Again, this woman who plays Evie carries this movie on her back because she's the only one who you are spending time with, visually. Uh, I really enjoyed it. I think that if you enjoy, um, certain things, creepy pastas or those, those YouTube videos that aren't read by the weird AI man voice, I really think you'll get a kick out of this. It's a lot of fun. I am glad to see something like this, uh doing well in the theater. Again, the movie cost nothing, so that it's doing well. And I really dug it, and it is it genuinely does have an effect afterward. Now, if as I say, it's the scariest thing ever, I don't know if that's true. It's definitely not the scariest thing ever, but it is definitely uh, the best horror movie I've seen this year so far, and the best one in a few years that has really like uh, affected me, and in a way that doesn't affect me like Hereditary or something like that, but just again that feeling when it was over of just like not being right, like my hearing wasn't, my equilibrium was off, my brain wasn't was being weird with the audio of the outside world now that the movie was over. So I think it does a pretty awesome job that way. I say go check it out. Um, and that is my review of Undertone. I'm glad the name of I think it was originally called The Undertone. That's the name of the podcast. No, Undertone. Um, Undertone's the right name. Although I spent the whole time walking around singing the word undertone uh to the sound of the bridge from Tool's Undertow, which uh Amber just loved it the whole time. Uh but next week we are going to be heading back out to the La Dumont family estate, I think, believe, somewhere around in there, because we are talking about a movie that I did not think we would ever get. Um, but I am super excited for. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Will be next week's review. Uh, and then either, I cannot remember, depending on when this goes up, uh, we may or may not have publicly stated when. In the next Either this next weekend or the weekend after, Nick and I will be doing our March live. We are talking about Peter Weller, RoboCop himself, talking about some of his lesser known weird filmography entries. So if you want to get to know the man behind Detroit's finest and check out some interesting films from him, make sure you join us for that. Uh, I know that Nick has been kind of tied up in some personal things, and so we haven't had a um, post theater clarity here in a bit, but um, he's doing fine. Just has to deal with some personal stuff, and so when he's ready, we'll get back into that. I mean, I know he's chomping at the bit to get back to doing those. And again, like I said, we'll be doing our Peter Weller March live. Until then, I would say I'm going to go back and revisit Ready or Not, because it's been forever since, I don't think I've seen it since the theater. Uh, to prepare myself and hopefully prepare yourself for Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. So join us next week for that. Make sure you're here every week because we do these new reviews every Sunday. And again, every Wednesdays, when available, we have our post theater clarity show that Nick does when he is able to do so. Um, and then once a month we do our live. Last in February we did our best and worst of 2025. This month we're doing Peter Weller. So if you don't want to miss any of that, make sure you like, subscribe, um, share us around. Our goal this year is to hit triple digits in subscribers. We're at a D, like almost at a D plus. So help us get up to that A plus plus by the end of the year. And until next week, uh, when I would say either you're ready or you're not. Uh, we'll see you guys then. Bye.